if I may just have 2 minutes of your time, with your permission, an uninvited speaker, advantage of my friendship. I just want to say, I have been deeply moved by the words that Sant Balbir Singh Ji just spoke. That is the voice of someone who is living his belief, and I find that deeply encouraging and inspiring. Thank you. Also, Ata Hussain Ji, General Ata Hussain, your knowledge has been absolutely stunning of what is going on in our efforts in this country to deal with disaster management, and your knowledge of the Himalaya, this God-given gift of ours, has been extraordinary. Thank you for enlightening us with all that you are doing. I'm very, very impressed, very impressed. A small thought comes to me, and don't mind if I express it. I'm glad we're reaching out to Turkey. I'm very proud of it. But something worries me. What is happening in Joshimath? They are our people. They're on the road to Kedarnath and Badrinath, where I walked in my teens, walking from Rishikesh upwards with my brother. I remember staying in the chattis, the pilgrimage chattis of Joshimath. Now we have a situation in which the great loves of our life, the seeming necessities of the mountains, pilgrimage is becoming tourism. Tourism is becoming rapacious. And security, the necessity of our country, seems somehow to be in some kind of internal conflict with each other. And I was just wondering if, in the course of the deliberations which you will be having, we can't think of some ways of reconciling this internal disturbance and violence that we are doing to our mountains because of the three necessities of our lives: pilgrimage, tourism, security. Do give it a thought. I say this because I like my friend, General Ata Hussain. I owe my life to the mountains, as did my father and my grandfather. We're all Kumawis at heart. We're all Kumawis at heart. Once when I was very, very unwell and wondering whether I would live or die, my wife said to me, think of something that you really love. And I started thinking about the Kumau. After a while she said to me, please don't think about the Kumau now. You'll go there and we'll miss you here. Such a deep place, so deep is the feeling which we have for the Kumau. That's where we've lived, that's where we want to go. But do think about these seeming contradictions in our demands on the mountains. How can we meet the requirements of our faith? How can we meet the requirements of our tourism and desire to recreate the mountains in our own image? And how do we meet the security of our country without disturbing the fundamentals of the mountains that we love? Thank you so very much. I'm sorry to have intruded unannounced in your time, but it's a pleasure and a joy, real joy, to friends who love the mountains as we all do. Thank you.
Great work being done. And now, ladies and gentlemen, it's time to introduce to you the book, Himalaya, Mountains of Life, written by Dr. Kamaljit Bawa. Kamal Bawaji is Distinguished Professor Emeritus at the University of Massachusetts, Boston, and founder-president of the Ashoka Trust for Research in Ecology and Environment. Among the many awards he has received are Pew Award in Conservation and the Environment, the Gunnerus Prize in Sustainability Science from the Royal Norwegian Society of Letters and Sciences, the International Midori Prize in Biodiversity, the Linnean Medal, and the honorary doctorates from the University of Alberta and Concordia University in Montreal. He is an elected fellow with the American Academy of Arts and Sciences, the Royal Society London, the American Philosophical Society, and the US National Academy of Sciences. Unfortunately, he is unable to join us today. As Mrs. Saifullah did mention, he is in Boston, but he is here today, and we have a message from him, and we would like to play that out for all of you.
First, a very good morning to all of you. I want to thank the Mountain Climate Trust and especially Ms. Saifullah for allowing me to say a few words about the Himalaya. I first experienced the tremendous richness of life in the Himalaya in early 1960s when, as a doctoral student, I traveled to the Eastern Himalaya for the first time. As the slow-moving train that took me from Siliguri to Darjeeling passed through the rich and dense tropical and subtropical forests of the foothills, I was fascinated by the tremendous biodiversity I saw in the area. I had no idea then that I was passing through one of the hottest biodiversity hotspots, because the terms biodiversity and biodiversity hotspots were not coined until 20 years later in the 1980s. However, I knew I was passing through a very special place, a very precious place. Of course, biodiversity everywhere is special. Everywhere it is very precious. But we know more so in the Himalaya that has almost 2/3 of India's biodiversity, is the source of 8 of the largest rivers of Asia, and of course is the 3rd largest reservoir of ice on Earth. All these tremendous natural assets, which would allow us to meet the challenges of climate change and other environmental challenges, are disappearing. They are disappearing, vanishing in front of our eyes. And there are, of course, several reasons: growing populations, infrastructure development in the form of dams and roads, and of course, the natural resources associated with the land. Unregulated tourism is another threat. What must we do then? I believe we need a very ambitious national program focused on the Himalayas, focused on sustaining the tremendous natural heritage of one of our precious parts of the country. This program, I believe, must have the 5 following elements. First, cataloging and monitoring of natural resources. Monitoring of not only natural resources, but also monitoring of changes in the economic value of these resources. Second, we must introduce policies that accord primacy to biodiversity and mitigation of climate change. Every development plan must have biodiversity and climate change embedded in it. Third, we must enhance sustainable use of biodiversity by diversifying natural-based solutions such as restoration, agroforestry, and ecotourism. Fourth, very similar to what I have said before, restoring of degraded lands to recover biodiversity losses and combat climate change must be a very strong element of this plan. And finally, developing participatory approaches to management of natural resources, empowering local communities to be the stewards of the resources, not only on their land, but also in the surrounding landscapes. I think Dr. Eklavya Sharma will further elaborate on ATREE's strategic plan for the Himalaya that I'm sure will have some of the elements I have talked to you very briefly. And thank you again for giving me this opportunity to share my brief comments with you this morning. I do hope you will have a very productive workshop, and I look forward to meeting some of you in the near future. Thank you very much.